Well, we've reached the sixth and final match day of the group stages of the 2024-2025 African Champions League. Of the 8 spots available in the knockout stages, only 2 are up for grabs. We're going to preview the main talking points for the whole entity of matches and more coming up next on this episode of the African Vibeside podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the African Football Report on the African Vibeside podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mizahi, and as always, this podcast is brought to you by Africa as a Country, which is going to be resuming from its publishing break by the end of the weekend. So starting next week, we should have some hard-hitting articles for you on all affairs on the African continent. So definitely go check out africaasaCountry.com. So as I mentioned in the intro, there's only 2 spots up for grabs in the sixth and final match day. But the other 6 sides will still be jostling for seeding places because if you finish first in your group, you're going to be seated higher. In the knockout stages, you're going to have the second match of the second leg at home. So that's usually a big advantage on the African continent. And also, you're going to be playing against a team that finishes second in their group, which again tends to be a weaker side, but that isn't always the case. In fact, historically, I saw the statistic on the Orlando Pirates website actually. They said over the last 7 editions of the CAF Champions League, only 3 champions finished first in their group. The remaining 4 winners emerged from second place. So history tells us that seeding and finishing first or second isn't so important. But it's going to be interesting seeing if that enters the calculus of teams as they prepare to play their final match of the group stages. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the matches. And we're going to start with the first one, Young Africans versus MC of Algiers, which in my opinion, this is going to be the most intense match of the round. This is going to be the match where really it's we don't have another match like this where all is on the line. The team that needs to win is playing at home. It's you know like the destiny is in the hands of either side. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more as a neutral, as a fan. And the way I'm breaking down the previews this week is we're going to start with the team news, and then what are the major questions that I have sort of percolating around my mind for this match, and then finally, what are the keys to the match? And the team news for this match, Yanga are almost fully healthy. They get Max Nzangali back, the Congolese winger. They're missing Kwasi Yao, the right back. And the good news for Yanga is that they're no longer transfer banned. I didn't even know they were transfer banned by FIFA, but they're already thinking of bringing in enforcements, and I believe they already signed a Congolese player, Jonathan Ikanga Lombo. So, getting right to it. As for MC of Algiers, they're having a little bit of travel problems. They were flying from Algiers because MC of Algiers and CS Constantine, who are playing in the CAF Confederation Cup, are both playing matches in Tanzania against Simba and against Yanga. And so they decided they were going to fly together. And Algeria is such a big country that usually what happens is the airplane flies all the way to the southern tip of the desert. They stop for refueling and then they continue on to the rest of the continent. And just to give you some of the perspective on the size of Algeria, in Algiers, I'm closer to London than I am the southernmost point of Algeria. And then there are some cities along that southern band in Algeria which are closer to the shores of Nigerian beaches than Algerian beaches in Algiers. It's such a massive country, and so the problem was they were flying from Algiers to the southern tip of the country, and it turns out there wasn't like the proper authorization to land at the airport or something like that, and they had to turn away and travel like another 30 minutes or an hour to another airport, stop there instead of where they were supposed to refuel. They had to spend the night, I believe. And so instead of landing in Tanzania on late Tuesday night, early Wednesday, they end up landing 24 to 36 hours later, which is kind of influencing a little bit of their preparation. And that's not a good thing, especially when there's such a big match on the table. Now, there's going to be some changes to the starting lineup. Hamza Mouali, a more natural left back, is going to take over for Kemal Hamidi, who's a right back that's been deputizing at left back for MC of Algiers. The captain, Ayub Abdullawi, center half, he's back from suspension. He was suspended for too many yellow cards in the group stages, and he's going to be pairing up with Ayub Ghazala as a center half. And he's a threat from set pieces. He already scored a set piece, I think, against Young Africans already in the first match in Algiers. Also, Andy Delors is expected to start this match as a striker instead of Sofiane Beyazid. Delors hasn't really looked great in the CAF Champions League. particularly in the link-up play. I think Bayezid has looked better, but he's more of a threat when it comes to set pieces, free kicks, long shots from 30, 25 yards out. He's a real menace, and he has more experience, I guess, throughout his footballing career than Sofiane Bayezid has. Um, but they are still going to play those natural wingers. I mean, Mesut and Taib Mizyani, as we mentioned that they should for a while now. And I think it's important to play with those natural wingers instead of those strikers because if you think about where Yanga's danger comes from, it's not from usually the target man. It's usually from their attacking midfield. It's Clement Mziza who's been playing on the left wing. It's Aziz Ki who's been playing in midfield. It's Pacom Zuzwa. These are the more dangerous players for Yanga. So if, in my opinion, you're going to need your wingers to absolutely track back as much as possible and compress any spaces there are in midfield. So that's the team news. Let's jump into the major questions that I have for this match. First of all, as I was thinking, Yanga are in this position. Man, were the board right to sack Miguel Gamondi and bring in Sead Ramovic? He's on 6 consecutive victories, um, 7 points out of 3 matches in the CAF Champions League after they looked down and out. Because when they made the decision, I think a lot of people, including myself, were thinking that's a very rash decision. Gamondi's done a great job with Yanga before. They made that decision too quickly. But man, Ramovic is looking like a really good appointment. And they're in a position to qualify now, and he's doing a great job of empowering his best players like Aziz Ki. Um, Ramovic, a quote from one of his most recent press conferences after the last match: "This win was a step in the right direction. We have one more challenge to overcome. We must give everything on January 18th to achieve our goal." On the other end, MC of Algiers also sacked their coach Patrice Baumel. And I was thinking, was that a justified sacking now that we've played a few matches? And with MC of Algiers, I'm yet to see a real improvement in the attacking output, and that was the reason why Baumel was fired. Um, and so I think the jury's still out on that one. I think for Ramovic, we could say Gamondi was justified. I mean, they're justified in sacking Gamondi. But for Baumel and bringing Khalid bin Yahya, not sure yet. And then my final question for MC of Algiers, because again, it's hard to grasp the size of MC of Algiers, I think, if you're not in Algeria. If you're in Algeria, you understand that this is the biggest club in the country, that this should be a giant of the African continent. And my question here is, are you a big club? Like this, as if I could ask, MC of Algiers and the players and their fans directly, are you a big club? Because you think you're big in Algeria, and you are, but are you big in Africa? If you really want to be a big club, you have to be a big club in Africa, not just in Algeria. And to do that, you have to go through matches like this, where all the pressure's on you. You just cannot lose in Tanzania, in a raucous stadium, at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, against a very good, very hot young Africans team. If you're a big team, you can get this result. If not, you still got a ways to go. Finally, like getting into the tactics, nitty gritty, and everything, the keys to the match. For MC of Algiers, I said they have to manage the bookends of the two halves mentally. So, this is like, again, cliche when you talk about football, but they say you usually have to manage the first and last 5 minutes of the match. So, 0 to 5 minutes, and then 40 to 45 minutes of the each half. And then, because that's when usually, as a player, maybe you're not in the match mentally. Um, you're still thinking about, you're still impressed by the crowd. You're still thinking about, am I, do I have my second wind about me? You maybe still don't know who you're marking really, or you don't have a feel for the game really. And towards the end of the first half or towards the end of the match, it's more about fatigue, and that can also cloud your mental sharpness as well. So usually when we talk about like underdogs or teams that are setting up to spoil the party, they're the ones that have to really be mentally sharp at the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of each half. So MC of Algiers, they have to be sharp there. Do not concede goals there. Second key to the match for MC of Algiers: have to utilize set pieces efficiently. Young Africans surprisingly have one of the highest percentages of possession of the ball in this competition. Mamelodi Sundowns are first, but I think Young Africans are top three. MC of Algiers are not that. MC of Algiers do not concede a lot of shots, do not concede a lot of goals. They have the best defensive record in the competition. I think this is going to be a match that's going to exaggerate those styles even more. I think that we could be looking at 70 to 75% possession of the ball for Young Africans. So I'm not expecting MC of Algiers to really get out of their half and really spend too much time in Yanga's half of the pitch. Now, if that is the case, when you do get a chance, and chances are probably going to come from set pieces, whether they be corner kicks or free kicks, use those set pieces efficiently. And I do think that MC Algiers have the size, and players like Aib Abdullah, who's making his return, the captain who scored on set pieces before in this tournament, Ayoub Ghazala as well, um, use those set pieces efficiently. You haven't scored from open play practically, all season or at a good rate anyway. So make sure you use those. And then the third one is stifle the Yanga midfield. What I've seen that Ramovic has done is even throughout this campaign, throughout the group stages, Yanga, they haven't really used their best players in wide or extremely attacking positions. Even Paco Mzuzua, who I saw more of a winger last year, sort of being played more centrally. Aziz Ki is being played more centrally. Um, Clement Mzize, who's been one of the hottest players, I always thought he was going to be playing as a target man, but sometimes he's more on the wing, and Prince Dube is more the striker. And so, because I think the danger, as I mentioned, is really in the Yanga attacking midfield, you're going to have to stifle it. And MC of Algiers does have a very good midfield, especially defensive midfield. Mohamed Ben Khamassa, Akram Boras. Um, there are players there that can do this job. And so they're going to have the best match of the year for them to really stifle and frustrate Yanga. The keys to Yanga: do not get frustrated with time wasting. Be patient, because MC of Algiers are going to come and waste a lot of time, and they're going to be very good at it. And you're going to be impatient to at least get a goal on the board. And if that goal doesn't come quickly, that impatience can sometimes lead to false urgency, which can lead to mental mistakes. Like maybe you think it's a good idea to take a shot from 30 yards out, and it isn't a good idea, and you snatch at it and you just waste 2 3 minutes instead of making one or two extra passes and creating a better chance. That's just an example. Maybe you pick up a stupid yellow card, and that sort of snowballs into my next point: no stupid mistakes. You have a natural advantage playing at home, playing in front of your fans. Do not undo that natural advantage with a red card, an own goal, or a conceded penalty. And then my last key to the match for Yanga is let the crowd carry you, because it's a special crowd at Benjamin and Mkapa. The entire continent knows it. And there are very real statistics that prove that home field advantage does exist. I remember during the Qatar World Cup reading studies that say that even testosterone levels of players increase when they play in front of their home stadiums, because they almost have it's almost a primitive urge of like defending home territory, you know. Um, and we all know those moments, towards the end of the match, it's 0-0, the crowd is roaring you on, and all of a sudden you don't even feel the fatigue anymore. You're just letting yourself be carried by the energy of the crowd. Let that happen. Embrace the crowd. Don't let it be pressure for you. Let it be energy and motivation for you. All of that said, I feel very conflicted about making a prediction for this match. My mind is telling me that Yanga's home field advantage and their form coming into this match is going to carry them through and they're going to win this match. My heart, and I don't think it's my heart as an Algerian, it's just my heart knowing Algerian players and how they can defend and how they can make this an insular thing and us against the world. My heart is telling me that MC of Algiers pulls this off. For my official prediction, I think I'm going to follow my heart. I think this is going to be 1-1. Yanga scores, MC of Algiers maybe equalizes, or vice versa. They score first via set piece, and Yanga equalizes. And MC of Algiers goes through, and Yanga crashes out just at the very end. The next match on the slate of matches is TP Mazembe versus El Hilal. I couldn't find much team news here because I think we're still, as I'm recording this, I'm still a few days out, and so they haven't had press conferences, and most national media outlets haven't really written pre-match reports. But my questions here are: if you're TP Mazembe, you're already eliminated. But if you're going to build a contender for next year, because TP Mazembe is one of those clubs that should want to be a permanent, perennial contender in the CAF Champions League. So if you're building that contender for next year, this is a good opportunity for you to look at your players and say, who are the disposable pieces and where are the pieces that we need to build around? And disposable could mean he's not good enough. Disposable could also mean, okay, he's really good, but we need to sell him, take that money, and reinvest it into our squad. An example there would be Oscar Kabwit. But it's quite clear that the reason why TP Mazembe didn't make it out of this group was, number one, it was a very tough group. But number two, they didn't replace the quality from the players that they sold over the summer. They lost a lot of experienced, talented players, and they never replaced them in time. My next question for TP Mazembe is uh, mentally transitioning, and this is not really a CAF Champions League question because in the league, you're 8 points behind with 3 matches in hand. So, can you ensure that the poor results in the CAF Champions League don't affect you in the league? Because, I mean, to be fair, this is like one of those leagues that's like Group A, Group B, and then the top teams go to a playoff. So, they can get hot late and still win the entire thing. But they just need to make sure that the poor form from the CAF Champions League doesn't translate or doesn't carry over to their local league. And then the last thing is there even going to be a Lubumbashi advantage here? Because we do know that Lubumbashi can be a big time advantage playing at home for TP Mazembe. But if you're already eliminated, is the crowd going to show up? Personally, I don't think so. I remember the first match of the group stages against MC of Algiers, they didn't show up. So now that they're eliminated, I highly doubt it. And that's probably going to have an impact on this match. My questions for El Hilal. El Hilal have been qualified. They've been qualified even before last match day. Um, they lost last match day. First match they lost in the group stages to Young Africans. If they lose here, does it matter? I think it does. You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of intelligent people in football that say don't get comfortable with losing. Even if there's nothing to play for, try to win every single match. Um, and this seems to be the mentality from Florent Ibenge. He says, and I quote, "We're going to do our best to win or draw against TP Mazembe away and not to change our mentality. We're going to Mazembe to try and win the game. We want to go to Lubumbashi and do our best, but I'm confident that we can that we can finish the group matches on a high." That's the mentality that you need to have, I think. Even if you rotate your players, even if you don't want to play your best players to risk them for injury or anything, the mentality needs to be we're not losing here because even unconsciously, as you lose matches, even matches that you're allowed to lose, like this one, unconsciously, subconsciously, bad habits are starting to form and that can carry over into the knockout stages. My last question for Al Hilal is: are there any schemes, formations, players that you would like to try and experiment with before the knockout stages? Now is a good time to do that. Don't accept losing. Uh, it's not. Don't look at it like we're fielding a weaker side, or feel it like look at it as like we're experimenting because we know that what's coming up next is the knockout stage. The knockout stages are home and away. Usually, the way you play at home is not the way you're going to play away from home in the CAF Champions League knockout stages because away from home, it's hell, and at home, it's a completely other environment. And so, if you're El Hilal, that's not necessarily going to be the case for El Hilal because remember they're not really playing at home; they're playing in Mauritania because of what's going on back home with the Sudanese civil war. But just keep that in mind. Do we still want to play this, 4-2-3-1 with, that wonderful attacking midfield of Groom Gisha, Koulibaly, Ten, say Tendang, I forget his name, the Senegalese attacking midfielder, number 8, Mohamed Abdurrahman as a striker. Is it going to be the same thing, or are you going to try something different? Maybe a different formation that's better suited to counter-attacking that you can use away from home. My prediction for this one, I don't have any keys to the match, is going to be a 1-1 draw. I think TP Mazembe is gonna try to go out on a high, but they probably don't have the quality to put El Hilal away. So 1-1. Next match is Sierra Belouizdad against Stade Abidjan, and I just put who cares. Honestly, like these are two teams that cannot make it through. Sierra Belouizdad have sold Islam Slimani, their striker. I don't think even these sides care that much. It's almost one of those where it's like, do we have to play this match? I think this is the only match that nobody has anything to play for. So I'm really not going to spend time breaking it down. The match after that is Al Ahly versus Orlando Pirates. Yeah. Team news for Al Ahly. Uh, or team match facts. Under Marcel Kohler, Al Ahly have been formidable at home, remaining undefeated across all competitions this season. Percy Tau is gone. I'm going to take a moment here. Let's, let's have an aside. This was one of those moments, in my opinion, where I was like, this is African football done right. 3.5 seasons. Percy Tau goes from South Africa, from Cape Town to Cairo. other side of the continent. Like for me, this is the best of African football. You know, it's like there's the only thing that can really unite us as a continent, in my opinion, at times, is like is football in this sense. How else were you gonna get a kid from the rural areas of South Africa and he's gonna become a hero in the biggest metropolis on the continent? Actually, that might be Lagos, but Cairo is definitely one of them. And now he's going to be a legend forever. And it was just so great to see how he thanked the club, he thanked the fans, how the club, King Percy, and it's he's forged something there that is going to follow him for the rest of his life. It's going to be part of his legacy, and he's never ever going to have to pay for tea in Cairo again. Um, Manuel Jose, the coach, the former coach, he understands that Portuguese guy. Flavio, maybe from Angola, the striker, understands that as well at Ahly. It's for me, this is like football is a way of making money. Yeah, it's a way of expressing yourself. It can be an art and everything. But for me, the one thing that you can get in football that nothing else can offer you, there are other jobs that you can get money at or that you can, do, you can be artistic in other fields. But when you have a connection with a fan base, for me, that transcends the entire sport. And that's only done when the fan base understands that you've sacrificed and that you are absolutely willing to give everything for the club, and then they'll replicate it for you. And for me, that's the most beautiful thing in football. Really, the one times that I really still get goosebumps every single time is when I see a standing ovation for a player that really deserves it, and it's just that communion, that outpouring of love back and forth. And Percy Tau's gonna feel that for the rest of his life and for Al Ahly. So yeah, for me, like I said, this is African football done right. I like what Al Ahly they did that with Pizzo Mosimane first, right? And now they've done it with Percy Tau. And yeah, like I said, we're all rural kid from South Africa. Black kid goes to an Arab country, different language, different culture, different religion, but it's all love now. I love it. So he won everything he could in 3.5 seasons except for the Club World Cup. Um, but yeah, he's gone. He hasn't really been much of a factor in the group stages, anyways, going back to the match. But um, hats off to you, Percy. I think that was, you've made your club career now because that was probably one of the. He had a decent career at Sundowns, and then Brighton was like a little weird thing, and then he was doing really well with the national team. But it's like, is he ever gonna step up and have a good stint with his club career? And I think he's done that with Al Ahly for sure. Al Ahly are getting Wissam Abu Ali, their Palestinian striker, back. He's well rested. He missed the match midweek against Smuha, and Abdel Fattah, the right back, is back after missing the match against Smuha as well. They still have a large heap of injuries um, throughout the team, really. But they're managed to just hit cruise control and rack the victories up as they deal with these injuries. Jose Rivero, I don't have any team news for Pirates, I don't think. Jose Rivero said in a recent press conference that these games are going to leave an effect on our players, on our group. It's something you cannot pay for, and it's something you cannot quantify. Speaking about the Champions League, and I think this match, he's talking about this match more than any other match, more than even the most recent victory against Sierra Belouizdad. Like I said about MC of Algiers against Yanga, if you want to prove that you're a big club, win or impress in matches like this. But still, I mean, because this is a little bit of a dead rubber, I don't think Pirates are under pressure to win here. But it's one of those that I'm curious about. Like, what is going to be the attitude from either side? Is this just a sparring match where, again, both sides are experimenting and just, playing the 90 minutes to play the 90 minutes to get the group stages over with? Or is this like a test? Like, hey, we think they're going to be contenders. We think we're going to see them again. Let's send them a message. I think personally that both sides are going to take this more of a sparring match, and there's going to be less pressure on either one of them to get a result. But yeah, my questions for the match are just that: is it going to be a sparring match or a real test? Will Pirates rotate or risk playing their top players too many matches? Because again, when I've been watching Pirates in the CAF Champions League, I think they've been playing with around 15, 16 players max. I mean, it's mostly been the exact same players. Um, Now is a good opportunity to rest your players. Rivero's spoken a lot about playing a lot of matches and traveling and all of that. You see the injury problems that Al Ahly have. Are you gonna play your best 11? Are you gonna play, Tito and Mofokeng and Mbata and Mahaula and all that, or are you just gonna rotate a little bit? I think it could be a good opportunity to maybe sprinkle in some players that haven't played so far in the CAF Champions League. Um, the keys to the match. All right. So if you're Pirates, one thing you have to understand, Imam Ashur, number 22, is very hot. He has 5 goals in his last 2 matches. Hat-trick in the Champions League and then 2 goals midweek against Smuha. This season, he has 8 goals and 3 assists. And 8 out of those 11 goal contributions have come in the last 7 matches. So the way he's been scoring his goals recently is he's been almost like shadowing the big tall striker Wissam Abu Ali, who not against Smuha, but definitely in the CAF Champions League, and he's been like gobbling up any second balls. So like let's say the big tall striker is trying to win a ball, it's a little funky, like he doesn't really get a proper head on it, the ball drops. Imam Ashur will dart in, nick it and be a menace in that sense. So make sure you're marking him on second balls and make sure you're marking him in the box because he has been the main conduit for Al Ahly. If you mark him in the box closely, if you mark him on second balls, maybe this could be a job for Makhawla. I think you're going to take away their main attacking threat at the moment. My second key to the match is Patrick Maswangani will be man marked by Akram Tawfiq. Akram Tawfiq, by the way, I think he's leading CAF Champions League in tackles per game, or maybe he's up there. He's a very, very good box to box attacking box to box central midfielder. Does a great job defensively, and I think he's going to do an okay job neutralizing Tito. If that is the case, Al Ahly will play, Marwan Atiyah as like a deep lying creative playmaker from deep in midfield. They'll play Akram Tufik as the box to box, so he's probably the one that's going to be marking Tito, your attacking midfielder. And then Imam Ashur, as I mentioned, he's kind of wild. He's like shadowing the striker up there. He'll find himself on the wing over here, the wing over there. He doesn't really respect his defensive duties. And so if you yourself have a deep lying midfielder that can join the attack, get forward and join the attack, I don't think Imam Ashur is going to have the defensive discipline to mark him too much. And so I think Talante and Bata, and he showed this against the Algerians, Sierra is that in making that run from deep and then striking from far, I think he's going to have opportunities to do that again this match. He's going to step up into space left by Imam Ashur, and he can pepper the Al Ahly goal with shots. And the Al Ahly goalkeepers hasn't been really great in the CAF Champions League this season. So I think this could be a good opportunity for Mbata to do that. I know he said that he's mostly done those in training and he feels more confident taking those shots at home, but I think it would be a good opportunity for him to exploit the space left by Imam Ashur as he's much more of a wild card all over the place and yeah, take some shots from long. Finally, Orlando Pirates, this was a statistic that kind of shocked me. They have the most touches in the opposition box, but they're not even close to having the most shots or goals uh, in the league. So in the CAF Champions League. My last one would be maybe be a touch quicker with your decision making in the box. Convert those touches in the opposition box to shots and maybe goals. So instead of trying to make the extra pass every single time, take a shot just a little bit earlier maybe. Instead of taking 3 touches in the box, take 2 touches. Um, if Pirates can do those, I think they can definitely come away with at least a draw. If you're Al Ahly, I think the key is to number one, beat whoever Pirates' target man is to the first ball in the air. Mabasa or Makopa, we saw, like, for example, in the first match against Sierra Belouiz, that how Pirates in Kota and Mofokeng, they do such a good job of running past their striker, and the striker just flicks it on, you know? They do a good job of, they know that the Pirate striker, usually it's Makopa, is going to win that first ball in the air and flick it onto them. So to eliminate that, win that first ball in the air. And Rami Rabia here, your captain, your center half, could be probably the best option to take on Makopa. And I think he's good enough in the air to do that. So beat Makopa to the first ball. Second thing, ensure your wingers are tracking back. We know that a lot of the danger has come from Mofokeng and Kota or Salang on the wings. If you're Al Ahly, if you're going to play Hussein Shahat or Tahir Mohamed Tahir will do it, for example. If you're going to play, whoever you're going to play as a winger, And sure, they're coming back, whether it's Karim Debes, and I think if you play like Karim Debes and Mohamed Tahar, not really sexy options, not really great attacking players, but they will fulfill their defensive duties. You play those two, I think they're going to be willing to come back and track back and try and stifle Mofokeng and Nkota. The final thing for Al Ahly is be comfortable out of possession. I mean, let Pirates have possession if they want. Don't be very anxious to try and recover that kind of and try and recover the possession. I think you can at times hit Pirates on the counter attack. So let them have the ball, and if all goes well, you can try to hit them on the counter attack. So my prediction here is going to be, I think Pirates are going to lose the first match of the group stages here. I think Al Ahly are going to win 2-1. It's just because they're so tough at home. I think Pirates are going to make some changes. Maybe 3, 4 players are going to be new in the starting 11, and yeah, Ahly are tough at home in the Champions League. I don't think either side is going to take this match too seriously, but I think Ahly win this match 2-1. The next two matches are Pyramids versus Joliba and Esperance versus Sagrada Esperanza. I'm going to analyze these matches together very quickly. The questions for these matches: how badly do you want to finish first if you're Pyramids or Esperance? I think Esperance, if they both win, Esperance is going to finish first, but I don't think either side really cares that much. Going back to the question that we were asking with Al Hilal, are you looking to experiment with players, tactics, even Pirates and Al Ahly? If you are, okay, let's see it. And then finally, if you're Pyramids, do you even care about home field advantage? Because you don't really have home field advantage anyways, right? So, I mean, like, for me, I don't think they're gonna care here. And Esperance, my main thing for them is like you're in touching distance of a CAF Champions League title. I think they've been my pick the entire year to win the CAF Champions League title. Make sure you have a good transfer window. The transfer window's opened up. Get yourself a defender. Maybe get yourself one more striker. Make sure you have a good enough window to win the CAF Champions League when it's time. My prediction here are Pyramids and Esperance are both going to win, probably by 2 goals apiece. Final two matches: Mamelodi Sundowns versus ASFAR Rabat. Um, the team news for Rabat is the coach Hubert Veloud apparently suffered an Achilles tear, which is crazy. I mean, usually that's players that suffer that, and usually not even football players, usually American football players. So he was actually been operated on, and he's going to be staying in Morocco. He's not going to travel to South Africa. Their center half is Selby, their best center half, probably their best defender, is going to be out with a thigh injury for 3 weeks, so that's a big loss. Another midfielder, Naji, is out as well, so they have a little bit of player. They have some players in the infirmary room if they're Rabat. Sundowns, they have no Obas, no Mudau, I believe, who are both suspended. Sundowns in the transfer window have been active, signed Lucas Suarez, the Argentine defender. Rumors of maybe signing Lebo Mutiba. Apparently have signed Jaden Adams, which I think could be a huge signing, especially for the knockout stages. So I don't think he's gonna he's gonna be a factor here. But man, I mean, he's been perennially linked to Mamelodi Sundowns anyways, right? But I think that could be. You think about him and Tabo Mokoena and Obas, and I think he could bring something different. Like Allende is usually the third midfielder there, but I think Jaden Adams could bring a little more industry, a little more energy to that position. I think he could make them even tougher. My main questions here: is AS Farabat gonna have like some kind of nationalistic sentiments and try and get a result so that Raja can win and Raja can kick Sundowns out? I don't think they care that much. Um, Also, this could also be a battle for first place in the group. If Sundowns win, they're gonna be first. If it's a draw or a loss for Sundowns, then Farabat are gonna be first. Does either side care about finishing first in the group? Again, these are questions that we've asked time and time and time again throughout this preview. I don't really think so. Um, my keys to the match here is, look, as for Rabat don't score a lot of goals. I think they've scored the most in their group, but in my opinion, they're not really a huge attacking threat. Sundowns really haven't been one either, even though Sundowns lead the CAF Champions League in possession of the ball. So I think if you're Sundowns, uh, I think you can have a lot of possession of the ball and it be defensive possession of the ball. This is something that I think Pep Guardiola is accused of sometimes. He admits that he says like I'm one of the most defensive coaches, even though he has obviously the highest rate of possession of the ball probably in history when you take into account all of his matches throughout his career. It's one of those where you keep the ball so that you can stop the opponent from hurting you. I think Sundowns are going to do a lot of that. I think they're going to try to have average between 65 and 70% possession of the ball. That would be one of my keys to the match. If you can do that against AS FAR, which won't be easy, you can limit the amount of chances they have against you. Um, ASFR about to have a really good goalkeeper. Like I said, their defender is out, coach is out. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of motivation for them to try and win this match. So still, I wouldn't try to just draw because if they nick a goal and you lose 1-0, all of a sudden your destiny is not in your hands anymore. So I think Sundowns are going to come out hungrier than ASFR a bet. They're going to dominate possession, and something tells me that this is going to be Ikram Rainers and Lucas Ribeiro's match. I think Sundowns are going to beat ASFR about 3-1. That's my prediction for this match. Finally, Raja versus Manyama Union. Team news: goalkeeper for Raja Casablanca, Enes Niti, who was there for 350 matches in more than 10 years, has left to the United Arab Emirates. Yousri Bouzouk, the Algerian winger who was their best player last season, leading goal scorer of the Moroccan league, also out after he's had some problems with the administration. And really, that is the problem with Raja, is that even the supporters, the ultras, are furious against the board and the new president Adil Hala, who's been in place since the beginning of the season. They think that there's been a huge mismanagement of funds. The club is in debt. Many of the players' cases have been mismanaged. The transfer market was poor. They're on their fifth coach, I think, and they still haven't hired a full-time coach. They're on an interim coach at the moment. So just the way he's managed it, by all accounts, has been horrendous. And I think if you ask a Raja fan at the moment, what is your main focus? Is it? I think they're 16 points behind in the league as well. Is your main focus getting through to the knockout stages of the Champions League or fixing your situation in your club? I think they're going to say the latter, because they might say, like, even if we get into the knockout stages, we're probably not going to win it with this squad anyway. So I think the main thing for them is, let's get a president that rights the ship. Let's find ways to clear the debt. Let's find ways to have a good transfer window, climb our way back up into the league, so that we can be rolling for the beginning of next season. um, so that's one of my questions for this match: is the nihilism of Raja's situation, is it drowning out the hope for qualifying to the knockout stages? And I think it might be a little bit. For Manyama Union, every time I've watched them play away from home, they've set up defensively very, very well. Um, and I think, with a new goalkeeper, usually a new goalkeeper, communication with the defensive line can leave you a little bit susceptible to set pieces. And I think Manyama Union, with Jeff Tikitambala, I keep calling him Joseph, Jeff Tikitambala, are one of the more dangerous sides from set pieces as well. So that's the key to the match for me. If you're Manyama Union, make sure you get Kitambala on the ball from set pieces, target him, and that should be good for you. If you're Raja, one thing I would say: play relaxed. Don't worry about, because Raja have to either score 2 goals and have Sundowns lose by 1, or if Sundowns lose by 2, Raja has to win by 1. They have to make up a +3 goal difference. I would, like I said, I would play relaxed. I wouldn't try to, like, go and blitz and score the 2 goals in the first half. And, like, Manyama Union is gonna set up well. They're not gonna concede goals easily. Make sure that you don't give up a goal. That's the main thing for them in the first half. Like, cover your bases defensively. Be relaxed. But it's almost like when you're playing PlayStation. It's been a long time since I didn't play FIFA, but I remember you could press, like, the arrow button and you could have, like, ultra attacking mode. I think if you're Raja, work on situations where you can go into that ultra attacking mode in the second half. Like, there's going to be a moment where, if you're the 60th minute and it's still 0-0, and then you hear from the other side that Sundowns are losing to Asfar Rabat, time to hit that ultra attacking mode. So that's not just like substitute 3 strikers on and hope you score goals. No, that's like very clear and defined passing sequences. If you have the ball over here, hit the diagonal over here. We're doing this on this set piece from this position of the pitch, and so on and so forth. So make sure you're working on that in training. If we hit this period of the match and all the conditions are right, we're going to go all out. But don't do it from the beginning. Stay relaxed at the beginning. Make sure you cover your bases and you don't concede a goal. Because if you concede a goal, then you're going to have to score 3. Okay, so my prediction is Raja's going to win this match 1-0 against Manyama Union, but it's not going to make a difference because I think, like I said, Sundowns are going to beat an Asfar team that are probably not so motivated themselves. So that's it. That's the final preview for the group stages of the 2024-2025 African Champions League. We're going to recap all of the results after the weekend, and then we're not going to have any Champions League action until March. So I'm going to miss you guys. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to continue doing episodes, but I love the Champions League, but we're gonna have to start shifting, talking about other things. Chan would have been nice. The African Nations Championship, it would have been slotted in right in February, but that's been postponed to August. So maybe we're going to take the time to cover maybe Africans playing in Europe, maybe some local domestic leagues. I think, for example, Club Africain are doing some very interesting things in Tunisia. So maybe I'm gonna head out to Tunis, interview the coach out there, profile the club. I think that could be pretty cool. But there will definitely be content coming out on a weekly basis. So please keep it locked in to the African Five-A-Side podcast. Thank you so much for all the love you guys have shown over the last week or so. It's been really, really touching. Thank you for sharing the channel, for subscribing, for giving it a thumbs up, for leaving comments. I always try to respond. I know I don't always respond, but I always try to respond. And yeah, we'll speak to you guys after the weekend. Peace.